October 14th. Welcome to Where the Sign Always Shines. Lynx here. We have Blake and Sunny. Sunny talks first. Let's find out what's between the two. What's gonna happen between the two. Did she listen to the CD? Maybe not. Hey Blake, you'll never guess what? Sunny's smile was almost as bright as her namesake. She was so cheerful, in fact, that she didn't bend down to take off her shoes like a civilized lady. Instead, she kicked them off her feet. I mean, at least she took them off. Let's appreciate that. She kicked them off her feet, letting them fall haphazard against Blake's jumbled assortment of brown brogues and unlaced trainers. I mean, they were not on his shoes, so it's not like he needed them laced. Blake, who was sitting by the table with a cup of coffee, raised an eyebrow.
You're supposed to knock, you know.
I guess, but your door is always unlocked, there's no point.
It's still a good habit to get into.
Whatever. Your door should be closed for. Get in that good habit, you idiot. I meant to be going out with my parents later this evening. I just want to stop by and tell you something important first.
Alright. Spill.
Sunny glanced at Blake's tablet. He's watching it again. There was a medical documentary playing on the small rectangular screen because of the curves. Of course there was. Blake wouldn't be Blake if he wasn't watching something disgusting. In the currently airing episode of Hospital, Dr. Langdon from hospital in Wiltshire was trying to perform a delicate surgery on a patient whose kidneys were failing. It was not a pleasant sight. I can imagine. No, I can't.
I don't really want to talk when that's going on in the background, thanks.
I fail to see the issue myself.
It's putting me off.
I can think of no better time to spill your guts. When the guy on the TV is literally spilling his life on camera.
But despite this petty objection, Blake still obliged. After cracking his neck, he turned off the offending piece of technology.
There, happy?
Marginally more so.
Christ, you always have to be so difficult, Cheddar. Next you'll be asking me to prepare cucumber sandwiches and Earl Grey. Earl Grey.
Yes, please.
With a sigh, the older man removed his glasses and pinched the bridge of the nose. Wearing those glasses was starting to hurt. Maybe the frames were a little too tight. Or maybe more likely it was all in his head. Some psychological thing. All he used his prescription lenses for now was watching hospital dramas. What a waste.
Do shut up and don't call me Cheddar. As a matter of fact, I came here to thank you.
Thank me?
I imagine that's not something you've heard in a while.
Not that I can remember, no. How curious. And what are you thanking me for, exactly?
Well, I got the part in the school musical.
Blood Brothers, is it?
Yes, Blood Brothers. I'm going to be Mrs. Johnston. I get to sing the very first song in the very first act.
Nice. Well, I can't say the same for Blood Brothers. It is impressively mediocre, but still. Good on you, kiddo.
And it's because of you. Miss Ponsonby said my song choice was excellent. As it turns out, she's a huge fan of fun.
So she has some taste after all. Maybe this Ponsonby isn't so terrible. Still, it seems a bit of waste to think of me in an evolution to be Mrs. Bloody Johnston.
Oh, leave off. Can't you just be happy for me?
I am happy for you. Exceedingly so. In fact, why don't you give me a rendition of Think of Me?
Got her! Sunny glanced about the kitchen dubiously. Her eyes roved over the plates in the sink, the overgrown tangle of watercress on the windowsill, and the motes of dust that danced in the air. She looked, her almond-shaped eyes narrowed, and frowned.
mean here?
That's right. Sign for me, my angel of music.
I don't know. I don't think this is a very fitting stage for an angel.
Do you want me to light some candles?
No, I'd really rather not sing if it's all the same to you.
But you sung for that wrenched Miss Ponsonby.
You shouldn't call her wretched. She's very nice. Anyway, I had to sing for her. It was an audition. I have no reason to sing for you.
But I was the one who lent you that CD. You said so yourself. It was my expert song choice that landed you that role.
Maybe, but I think you might be even more critical than Miss Ponsonby was.
Well, you might have a point. I get rather passionate about the Phantom.
I thought so after you were so rude about poor Gerard.
Poor Gerard, is it? I don't know about that. I should think after all those films he's starred in, he will be incredibly rich, Gerard.
You know what I mean.
I know what you mean. You think he's attractive, and that means you can forgive him for any evil, even butchering Mr. Lloyd Webber's score.
He didn't butcher it.
No, you're right. I must give credit where credit's due. He did worse than that. It was a musical massacre.
Cut it out, man. Why do you have to be so grumpy all the time? I thought you'd be happy for me.
I am happy for you, but I despair at your musical tastes. Now tell me honestly, what did you think about Michael Crawford and Sarah Brightman?
Well, it wasn't bad, I suppose.
Not bad? You listen to Michael Crawford's divine voice and all you can muster is, it's not bad.
It just, there is something wispy about his singing. Kind of ethereal. Like, you mean not the ethereal?
Oh, please. He's the Phantom of the Opera. The clue is in the name.
I know, but I don't imagine him like that. He should have a lower voice, I think. Not that I'm saying he wasn't good. It just wasn't what I expected, that's all.
You mean you wanted him to sound sexier?
Maybe.
Good lord. That's the exact problem with so many modern castings of the Phantom. They want to sex him up too much, society obsessed with it. I understand the appeal of a suave, dashing, dangerous man. I mean not first-hand, but it runs rampant in gothic fiction. All women love a good Byron-esque anti-hero, but the Phantom isn't supposed to be sexy. He's disfigured. His voice can be appealing, yes, but that low vocal register just doesn't cut it. His character gets further and further away from the source material with every recasting. How can I take the message of the story seriously when he is portrayed by somebody too attractive? It ruins the pathos completely. It turns the story into a farce. It's enough to make you cry, I swear to God.
Wow. You weren't joking when you said you felt passionately about this.
I do feel passionately. Somebody has to. This is yet another unrealistic expectation for men.
Seriously?
Yes, seriously. Do you want to know what Gerard Butler was telling me as his wont about in that mask and cape?
What?
It's fine having a few physical imperfections just so long as you don't look too hideous. So long as you look like Gerard Butler.
You sound like you're getting worked up.
That's because I am. And for good reason too. I think I need to re-educate you. Now, how about this?
Blake got to his feet. The legs of his chair screeched. He stalked forwards. For a few alarming moments, Sunny feared he was going to hit her. Was that something grown men did? No. Did they hit teenage girls because they didn't appreciate the vocal genius of Michael Crawford? It seemed a bit much.
Yeah?
Then again, everything about Blake was a bit much. Most men didn't watch surgical documentaries when they were eating kippers at the breakfast table either. Who the fuck eats kippers though? Stop. And yet, to Sunny's relief, Blake did not hit her. In fact, he did not go anywhere near her. Instead, he stalked off down the hallway, neatly skirting around Lawrence.
Where are you going?
On a journey to open up your mind, Cheddar.
My name is not Cheddar.
Sonny tried to protest, but she still found herself following after Blake. She had to take 2 steps for every one of his.
You're going into your study?
I want to fetch you something. You can come in if you want.
Thanks.
Sonny ducked into the study behind Blake, glancing about curiously. The young girl had been to Blake's house several times before, but she had never been in his study. She restricted her cleaning to the kitchen, and there was no shortage of work to do there. For the two had struck up a friendship of sorts. The study had always been out of bounds. A little like the story of Bluebird, Sonny had thought, abandon all hope. Oh yeah, who entered here? Or maybe there was Dante's Inferno. Have you guys played Dante's Inferno? I tried it, but I couldn't get into it. I don't remember why for. But like, I played God of War and I love God of War on PSP only for. And Dante's Inferno just didn't cut it. Whatever. Exactly. Ultimately, Sunny was almost disappointed that her quick scan of her study revealed no torture instruments, no dead and or dying wives, and no portals to hell. Instead, it seemed like a normal study. It was a relatively small box room, made smaller still by the large amount of plants that were dotted everywhere, of which Sunny could only name a couple. A peace lily, her mother had one, and... was that an aspidistra? She wasn't sure. Besides the plants, which seemed healthier than the overgrown watercress and worm-eaten basil in the kitchen, there was a desk set up for Blake's computer, and shelves stacked with books, CDs, and DVDs. It was the DVDs Blake went to, his fingertips skittering over their glossy spines. As Blake examined the DVDs, Sunny found herself looking at the books. There were several she recognized, mostly from her studies in school. Bronte, Keats, Shelley. I know the name Shelley. A lot of gothic horror. It was quite different to the books Sunny's father favored, which were typically crime novels. Over here it's probably just manga on the shelves. Well, that made sense. Sunny's father was a policeman. One would have thought after a busy day at work he would have wanted a break from catching criminals and, I don't know, watch some slice of life. But maybe not. The crimes featured in Lee Child and Ian Rankin stories were always more fantastical than those committed in real life. I mean, I guess it's true. You would never, for instance, read a Lee Child story centered about the abduction and subsequent abandonment of supermarket shopping trolleys. Oh, for fuck's sake, it's so annoying when you walk through a parking lot and you see someone leaving the trolley behind, or just the trolley being there. It's annoying, not gonna lie. And I was not even working in retail where there were trolleys, okay? But it still annoys me. Like, get it to the place. It will take like 1 minute for you, dude. Those people have enough work. And there, wedged in the corner of the shelf, almost like an afterthought.
Christiana.
Sun read the title that ran down the spine, her lips forming the syllables beneath her breath. The title of the book cover was the least interesting aspect of it. It was the name of the author that really caught Sun's attention.
Blake Radcliffe?
Oh. You found that old thing, did you?
Yeah, did you write that?
Astutely observed. I did indeed.
I've never seen it before.
Of course you hadn't. I doubt your school library would have it. If you really want, you can always borrow it.
Are you sure?
Oh, completely. Borrow it or take it, rip it up, burn it. I don't really care. It's shit anyway.
How can you say that about your own work? You should be proud of it.
I was at the time. Now I can hardly stand looking at the damn thing. You'd be doing me a huge favor if you took it, actually.
You don't mean that.
Really? Try me.
You are a ridiculous man.
But Sunny still acquiesced to his wishes. How could she not? She was curious about what kind of writing Blake's cynical mind might have produced. She could hardly imagine. After freeing the book from the shelf, Sunny turned it over in her hands. The cover was dark, emblazoned with an image of a young girl in what appeared to be a gauzy white nightgown, holding a candle in her right hand. Was that the titular Christiana? Maybe.
It looks kind of like a period romance.
It would be exactly that. I prefer the phrase gothic, of course, but maybe I'm just a pretentious shite.
Well, I won't disagree with you there.
Her words, they cut deep. I am in agony.
Shut up.
And while you're at it, you should probably take this too.
The Phantom of the Opera? Again?
Yes, again. It's the 25th anniversary edition performed at the Royal Albert Hall. It actually stars Ramin Karimloo as the Phantom, who isn't a patch on Crawford, but is the closest I can get to showing you the real West End experience. Without Gerard Butler.
You really have a thing against Gerald Butler, don't you?
I have a thing against all those prancing fools. Particularly ones who swan their way into leading musical roles through good looks. Now take it, watch it, learn to love it.
Alright. I'm taking it.
Andrew Lloyd Webber, The Phantom of the Opera, in the Royal Albert Hall, celebration 25th. Okay, Sunny accepted the gift. Not that it was a gift she particularly wanted. Neither had she asked for it. Really, was there anything wrong with Gerard Butler? Sunny couldn't remember the movie that well, but he hadn't been so very terrible. I obviously haven't seen it, so what would I know? I haven't seen the original as well or whatever. As Sunny had grown to learn, however, it was best not to argue with the older man whenever the subject of Gerard Butler came up. Blake was so touchy about the A-list actor, it was almost like he'd murdered his wife. Now that would be a twist worthy of the West End. Would it? Maybe?
And while I'm giving this, can I have my CD back?
Oh, sure, of course.
Much obliged.
Now.
I like actually the picture covers with the information on the screen, more or less. Sally glanced about Blake's office. Once again, she took in the desktop, the table, the beige walls, the piece, Lily, the aspidistra, the clock on the wall. It was nearly 5 o'clock. How had the time gone by so very fast? It does sometimes, yeah.
I think I should probably get going now.
Suddenly sounded apologetic, for she didn't know why. Not exactly. She felt horribly guilty to leave Blake at times, far guiltier than she felt about leaving Mrs. Sloane. For Mrs. Sloane had been advertised to Sunny as a sad, lonely, needful woman who huddled in her oversized armchair watching Return to Jeremy Kyle on television that couldn't have been further from the truth. The real Mrs. Sloane was surprisingly sprightly for being in her mid-80s, and she certainly wasn't a sad, shrunken, skeletal creature. She was robust, with 2 chins and fingers thick like sausages. Her 4 wedding rings, yes, she had been married 4 times, like some kind of counterfeit Henry VIII, clung tightly to her ring finger in a neat little row. 1 sapphire, 1 ruby, 1 amethyst, 1 emerald, just like the houses in Sunny's school. She was like close to being a Thanos? Mrs. Sloane was bright and cheerful, and when she greeted Sunny, she always did so with a kiss. Ugh. It smelled overpoweringly of jasmine and lavender, her perfume of choice. Mrs. Sloane's nieces and nephews, who were numerous enough to form their own small country, had not signed Mrs. Sloane up for the Good Samaritans program because she was sad or lonely. In fact, it was quite the contrary. They had signed her up because she was so very full of life, it threatened to burst into bangs. Lest she had anybody to talk to on an almost 24/7 basis. Basically, she was a pain in the ass too. Blake was different. There was something almost hollow about him. He reminded Sunny of a scarecrow, not just because he was so tall. She could easily imagine him standing in the middle of a field all alone, pecked by birds, stiff arms and a bad back and a crooked neck. Blake was only in his early 30s, and though he could be incredibly childish at times, he lived like he had months left. Mrs. Sloane, meanwhile, was an elderly woman, but she carried on like she was still in the prime of her life. Maybe it was divine providence that Sunny had come to the wrong 24 William Street at the beginning of September. Blake might not have been signed up to the Good Samaritans program, but he needs a Good Samaritan more than Frances Sloane. Francis? Whatever.
I had an idea.
Oh, and what's that?
If you want to see me sing, you could always come and watch our performance of Blood Brothers.
Thanks, but I'm not a big Willie Russell fan. I think you might have gathered.
I know, but I would like you to come.
You would?
Yes, it would be fun. You could finally hear me sing. You're an angel of music.
Well, I'm flattered, but I know about that. I'm an old man.
Not that old.
Yes, well, I'm in my 30s and you're, what, 8?
For your information, I'm 15.
Exactly, I'm more than twice your age. I'm sure your secondary school musical will be charming, but if I show up, you might look like a little strange.
I see your point, but, well, if you change your mind, I can always get you last-minute ticket. It's an exclusive perk of being a member of the drama club.
How fancy.
I know, right? The musical's on the 18th of December. I'd be very happy if you could come.
I'll think about it.
Please do. But I don't know if I'll be able to come over that much the next few months. I have to rehearse after school, and I won't have much time.
It's fine, Sonny. You go. Enjoy yourself. That's what childhood is for. You shouldn't be wasting it talking to me. As for the Phantom, however, you really should watch that. I want to hear your opinion.
Of course I will.
And she meant it. If it mattered to Blake, it mattered to her too. Somehow, after a relatively short period of time, he really had become important to her. Interesting. October 28th, 3:30 AM. December 5th, 3:26 AM over here. Blake yawned, rubbing the back of his neck with one hand and glanced at the circular clock mounted on the wall. It was 3:30 in the morning. The very early morning. Very, very early morning. For me, it's very... I would say early night. That couldn't be right, could it? He knew he'd been up late, but that late?
It's almost like I'm a teenager again.
Blake looked at the digital clock in the bottom right hand corner of his computer monitor, this time just to double check. 3:30 AM precisely.
Shit, really?
No, wait. 3:31 AM.
Damn.
So it wasn't a cruel trick of fate after all. The computer clock couldn't be wrong. The computer clock was never wrong. For somebody who had been brought up in an era without desktops or laptops or MacBooks, Blake had grown rather dependent upon technology. What year did he get to life then? Now he trusted even more than his own judgment. He'd never been very good at judging people anyway. Unlike people, a desktop couldn't hurt you, couldn't mock you, couldn't leave you. The Matrix had made a technologically dependent future seem like an awful dystopia, but Blake was rather fond of the idea of becoming one with the machine. Why bother raging against it? When the year 2199 rolled around, Blake thought he would welcome his robotic overlords with open arms. He would need to live pretty long then. Not that he'd be alive by then. Okay. He'd already been alive for far, far too long.
God, what a pain.
But Blake didn't really believe God could hear him. Of course he doesn't. Even if he could, in all his infinite wisdom, Blake doubted he would be able to do anything. Blake was beyond help. Beyond hope. That was what his mother used to call him whenever he did something particularly stupid.
What am I going to do with you? You really are hopeless, Blake.
That was what she had said the time he ate those unripe berries on the twisted, withered old mulberry tree in the back garden and calmed down with an awful stomachache, and the time he threw his frisbee through the roof of the greenhouse. Okay, it depends. I mean, maybe he didn't know they were unripe, right? And frisbee through the roof of the greenhouse. I mean, it happens when you're a child. I mean, you could say something like what she said to me as well, because I kicked the ball onto the freaking rooftop of my garage back in the day. Or back to the my neighbor's garden, or basically in their area, right? It happened a lot of times, yeah. And I would just freaking climb onto the garage, that's all. Get the ladder and up we go, right? Or just jump over the fence to get the ball. That's what it was about. Well, what was she expecting? You could hardly name your child after the forefather of romanticism without them growing up to be a bit of a wild child. Blake, okay. He rubbed his eyes, disrupting his glasses. He didn't care. The bridge was starting to bite in his nose. It always seemed to do that when it was late at night and he was tired and he couldn't write. And it was also doing that when Sunny was around. He hadn't been able to write in a long, long while. When he'd worked on Christiana, his glasses had never bothered him, not one bit. Now he was sensitive to each and every ache in his joints, the tension in his limbs, the pains in his head, sometimes even the sound of his own heart beating distracted him. Only because he let it distract him. There was nothing else going on inside of his head. It was hollow and empty. If you cracked it open, there would be nothing there. Fuck. Black. I constantly say this. Blake cursed under his breath. It was an expletive, okay, that brought him much more relief than the name of the Lord. Maybe that meant he was going to go to hell. Don't we all? But he couldn't bring himself to care. He shook his head. Why on earth had he decided to become a writer of all things? Why couldn't he stay at the printing company? Because it was not fun? Granted, he had been miserable there, but at least he had been able to go to work at 9, leave at 5, and believe with a small amount of self-satisfaction that he had done something productive with his day. It
doesn't work like that.
Even if aforementioned productiveness resulted in nothing more than a few more trees being cut down in Amazonian rainforest. But work schedules were different when you were a writer. Supposed writer. Blake wasn't creating anything, even though his goal, when he had quit his job, had been to allow himself more time to make something meaningful. Something beautiful. What a joke. It just wasn't a very funny one. Well, that was Blake's whole life. With a groan, he got to his feet. The legs of his chair screeched against the wooden floor, but he paid it no heed. Blake extended one hand, the fingers long and strange and pale in the dark, and began to search through his CD collection. He passed over Cats, The Lion King, Les Mis, until he finally settled on the object of his desires. The Phantom of the Opera. Michael Crawford and Sarah Brightman. Nobody was as good as Michael Crawford, really. Ramin Karimlu was by no means bad, but Blake slid the CD off the shelf. He opened up his CD player and slotted it neatly inside. His movements were almost reverent. If he couldn't write, he could at least listen to a sad string melody composed by somebody who could. Not that his talents had made the Phantom very happy. Not in the end. Still, that was the whole tragic appeal of the musical. There were too many happy endings in fictional stories. Real life wasn't like that. Yeah, but you have to struggle for it. Blake knew that firsthand. You have to struggle for it, man. Alright, let's end it here. We'll continue tomorrow. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you have a wonderful day. Because I actually have to wake up today. To go onto the football pitch. Kick around with a friend of mine. Because for some reason he wants to learn a bit.
I mean, no complaints, why not?
I'm not gonna go on Monday though. Because I'm not going really on Mondays at the moment anymore. Because the boys moved from like a field pitch to I don't know what even the freaking ground is made of. Like the it's like on the baseball courts outside. Whatever it is, whatever. Never mind. I just don't want to play on that. I don't like the completely flat surfaces. I like the grass, even if it's not natural grass. I prefer the grass. Anyway, that was the second episode of ours of Where the Sun Always Shines, and really, come drop by tomorrow as well. We'll get to it. That's it. Oh yeah, link to the game in the description as per usual. I think I haven't said it about in the first episode. Anyway, it's always there. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.